We're used to using metaphors to describe understandings that often refer to vision, such as I see, insight, illumination. The world outside our minds is full of color, shapes, and forms in movement. Our awareness about what's going on around us is based on nerve activity triggered by light reflected off those objects. Visual perception begins in our retina. Cellular activity in the retina is transferred to the brain through fibers that make up the optic nerves and then progresses through numerous other vision-related structures until finally we consciously experience the world around us. 70% of the body's sense receptors reside in our eyes. The eye and the visual cortex of the brain form a massively parallel processor that provides the highest bandwidth channel into human cognitive centers. Light is captured by photoreceptors and is changed into electrical pulses. There are 3 information pathways that work in parallel to perceive shape, color, and movement. There are neurons capable of determining the characteristics of an image. These neurons enable us to precisely identify the direction in which an object is moving, the position it holds in space, or its color. Perception belongs to our individual internal world, to a psychological process of interpretation. Our previous experiences, along with our expectations, age, memory, and emotional state, can greatly alter our interpretation of information received, because it is a reading, an intelligent interpretation of signals whose code is not in the eyes, but in the brain. These images are read, just as we read a musical score or a literary text. Visual perception is active. We need to make precise decisions that allow us to make very refined movements involving a great number of small muscles that must be used in appropriate ways at the appropriate moment. This coordination obeys a complex decision tree pre-programmed in our brains. We must choose when to focus, when to unfocus, when it's better to get a global image, and when it's better to get a specific image. We must decide on the speed and timing of the ocular movements in order to follow moving objects. We must adapt to changes in lighting, to flashes, and to reflections. We must create a stable image when everything is moving, including when we ourselves are moving. We live in a quickly changing world that constantly requires us to adapt. The biological history of humankind demonstrates a huge capacity for adaptation in response to changes in the environment. The difference today is that these changes are being called for in ever-decreasing time frames. In our present information society, our desires are instantly satisfied, and we receive the answers before we take the time to process our questions. People who have the means to partake in this form of society are sometimes called digital citizens. One concerning point about this instant gratification phenomenon is that the faster we get what we want, the more our patience diminishes and the more our anxiety increases. We have access to the information anytime, anywhere, but we don't have the time to process it. What is the future of a society that wants it all and wants it now? The thousands of hours spent in virtual environments have changed our sense of time. Is it possible that in response to an ever-changing artificial environment, our internal timekeeper is different from that of our ancestors? Does it seem to you that the action in this picture is too slow or not exciting enough? Will the natural world no longer be enough for us? Will, because of our inner sense of time, everything occur too slowly? How much information can we process at once, and at what speed? Are there biological limits that could prevent us from going beyond certain levels of stimulation? What may happen if we live in a constant state of stimulation? Are we approaching a moment when we could reach the point of overstimulation? Is it possible to suffer from an information overload? These 4 women have traveled from Canada and the United States to participate in an experimental re-education protocol designed by Dr. Joaquín Farias for people who are affected by a rare condition known as Blepharospasm. Benign essential blepharospasm, a condition characterized by abnormal blinking or spasms of the eyelids, is a type of dystonia, a group of movement disorders consisting of uncontrolled muscle contractions, tremors, and other involuntary movements. The first signs and symptoms of benign essential blepharospasm include an increased frequency of blinking, dry eyes, and eye irritation, which is aggravated by wind, air, pollution, sunlight, and other irritants. These first indications of the condition usually occur in mid to late adult age and gradually worsen to spasms of the muscles surrounding the eyes, causing involuntary winking or squinting. Individuals who are affected by benign essential blepharospasm have increasing difficulty in keeping their eyes open. This can lead to severe vision impairment. The symptoms of benign essential blepharospasm spread beyond the eyes to affect other facial muscles and muscles in other areas of the body in more than half of all the people affected by the condition. When the disorder includes involuntary muscle spasms affecting the tongue and jaw, It is known as Meige syndrome. Among the estimated 20 to 50,000 people in the United States affected by benign essential Blepharospasms, twice as many women are affected by the condition as men. The causes of benign essential Blepharospasm are still unknown. The treatment of Blepharospasm with drugs has proven to have limited success and has produced cases of severe side effects. Injections of botulinum toxin into the muscles around the eyelids has become the treatment of choice, temporarily weakening the muscles that force the closure of the eyelids. Repeated injections are required after several weeks or months when the effects wear off. Surgery is the most radical approach, with myectomy being the most common. This surgery involves partially or fully removing the squeezing muscles around the eyes. Patients affected by Blepharospasms tend to suffer from light sensitivity, which requires them to wear sunglasses, even indoors. In some cases, exposure to light causes such discomfort that some affected patients decide to live in darkness. Extreme ocular sensitivity not only rejects light, but dust in the air or wind can also feel like stingers in the eyes. People affected by Blepharospasms tire easily and tend to suffer from depression and isolation. For the people who suffer from this condition, going for a drive or simply going for a walk is a challenge. Sound, moving objects, fast changes in color, or the brightness of light, including the reflection of light in a puddle, can produce a chain of spasms that can temporarily blind them.
Bright light would be outside, like more, not bright light inside so much, outside if I'm walking, and it's even any light when I'm walking outside, just being outside walking, period. Driving is really bad. Being a passenger in the car is automatic. It's like my eyes just don't want to be open. And what else? What else is a trigger? Listening to people. It's like I can't keep my eyes open. Listening, watching anything, go to a concert where you can even listening, or you want to watch the musicians, I can't really watch. And then if at the computer sometimes, but it's only if I'm working on something that's very, that's difficult for me or I'm worried about, and then I have trouble keeping my eyes open.
I have a lot of light sensitivity. And that's what I noticed first when I started with this. It came on really gradual. And I was straining to drive and straining to see anything, and just couldn't figure out what was wrong. I thought my eyes were just getting worse and I needed progressive lenses or something. So I went to 3 different eye doctors and nobody knew. They just kept saying, well, your eyes look fine, but we'll put you in progressive lenses. So I didn't find out from January till September, October that I had Blepharospasm.
Symptoms were, I'm not sure how long ago, many years, I was blinking a lot, and then I started to squint a lot, just always, my husband said you're squinting all the time. And then about 2 years ago, I started to spasm when listening to other people. That was my first trigger, and it continues to be my probably worst trigger. Then gradually, over the next 2 years, it became harder when walking, and hard when I go jogging. That's very hard. And but still, I mean, those are probably my 3 main ones. Then This past summer, I went and stayed with my family, my parents, for a long time and listened to a lot of talking. Yeah. So it got much worse over the summer. And so then even when I was reading and stuff, it was bad. But that was only for the last couple of months. And there was a period where I was not sleeping at all. And I still am not, my sleep is disturbed. I've been working on it and trying to be really better about that. But I feel like that certainly was present in my life.
Yeah.
So, and when I talk, it's much better. Then I'm okay. But when I'm listening to someone else.
What is reality? Is what we perceive as happening really what's going on? Our brain processes millions of bytes of information per second, looking for recognizable patterns in an attempt to find logic in what it perceives. From time to time, it makes errors. When the error is continuous, and the predictions and estimations made by the brain do not match what's going on in the real world, we become trapped in a brain illusion. Dr. Farias studies brain illusions. His research into the re-education of people affected by diverse dystonias has led him to propose that dystonias could be a consequence of a brain illusion. According to Dr. Farias, the change in the body's inner metronome produces an illusion, the illusion of the shrinkage of the body's inner time. Brain activity happens in time, and if this inner time is distorted, our interaction with reality will be affected. For this reason, he believes that overstimulation leads to confusion, because one's inner world ceases to be aligned with external reality. Dr. Farias analyzes, classifies, and studies illusions in order to find the way to break them. He designs counter-illusions that adjust the patient's perception of reality in the physical and corporal world. If the patient is living another reality because they are immersed in an illusion, only a counter-illusion can bring them back to reality. By the way of suggestion, imagining, and movement, the patient breaks the illusion that is shackling them and reconstruct a new, accurate perception. Every illusion has some bug or incoherency. When the patients are conscious of the errors in their illusions, the illusion breaks, inducing a neuroplastic change that allows restored functional movement. Dr. Joaquín Farias considers himself to be a biological software analyst and believes that all of us has to become our own software architect so we can adequately filter, process, and organize the information we receive. He considers dystonia to be a temporary lack or loss of accuracy and precision in brain activity. For this reason, this form of neuroplastic training aims to retune the brain and restore proper function of cognitive processes, perception, and motor functions.
And when someone is exhausted, can hyperreact. And then your reactions can be out of proportion. And physically, regarding the eyes, just dust that you will never pay attention to that. You would never pay attention to that before. Now it's an aggression. Yeah. And even light can be painful.
My eyes still want to close.
When I close, but that's important. Mm-hmm. When they close, you close your eyes. But when they are open, why you are not yourself?
I still feel a lot of movement in my face, a lot of tension from my eyes down into my throat, and I had written you that my vocal cords. So there are times when when I speak, and it gets worse as the day goes on, as I get tired. But when I speak, my voice is more broken, and I just feel a lot of tension and movement inside.
Yeah.
With my whole jaw, I clench my jaw a lot. I bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Even when I'm laying down at night, I can feel my teeth on my tongue.
Yeah.
And so I just never feel comfortable. I think I always feel anxious and nervous because of all this going on in my face.
But it's kind of paradoxical.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't care about the spasm, you are going to produce less spasms.
Mm-hmm.
If this is life or death for you, you're going to produce a lot of spasms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of, these kind of conditions can be quite cruel.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you try to avoid them, the more you try to hide them, the more you're going to produce.
Correct.
Movement is a gate to your brain.
Dr. Farias has opened new fields of thought in comprehending the neuroplastic processes involved in movement training. He has brought to the table the concept that people who are affected by dystonia are also affected by agnosia and specific task-related amnesias. He points out in his work that by giving specific attention to these agnosias and amnesias, reeducation effectiveness is boosted. His work takes into consideration the connections between emotions and movement and pays special attention to the role that rhythm and timing play in movement coordination. He considers that the term focal dystonia does not accurately describe the reality that these patients encounter. He has coined a new term for the phenomenon, which is movement confusion disorder, because he believes it more precisely encompasses the mechanics at play in the brain.
For the most part, everything was for a deadline, and you didn't go home until you were finished, and so there was always pressure, and there was competition that someone else would get, especially when I worked in Toronto. Someone else might have the story that you're working on, or more of it, or you might have missed something, and then, good God, and you go home and they'd chase you home. And if you didn't have everything there, it's like, why don't you have this in your story? What's wrong with this? And you'd have to still do some more work then to finish things up. So it was like no peace. It just kind of went and went. So that wasn't particularly good for me. I know. Because some people didn't bother them, but me it bothered a lot.
Yeah. But I went through a lot of years of a lot of stress, and so I do think that probably, and I think you're very right in me trying to make it look to everyone else that I was handling it and that it was okay, and it just tore me up inside.
What do you think that triggered these hyper reactivity states in your case?
Well, I don't know if I read this. I think it's like a house of cards, and just one too many cards on it and everything came crashing down. That's what I think. I've had so many things happen in my life since birth, and I think it just was built, and then just one more card and everything came crashing down. Because it was from one day to the next.
Yeah.
Just my whole life.
Yeah, it's a whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Our way of reacting to exterior situations and to our own emotions obeys the way in which the brain has been programmed during our life experiences, with the experiences gained during our infancies being the underpinnings, since they created the frame of reference for later programming.
I can look at pictures of myself now and be halfway happy with them.
Yeah.
You know, I still think that I don't look exactly like myself.
Why?
Well, I don't know, I just don't think that
I think that I have gotten some mage where the face is involved, because one time I taped my eyes to run, to hold them open, to go jogging, and I noticed that my face started going all kinds of, so when I'm holding my eyes open, then I have like tics.
In your case, relaxing produces anxiety.
That's true.
It's true. So you
It's
have
just
to
trying to relax.
just try
It's
to
like
relax.
trying. Everything that's effort is like anxiety somehow.
Yeah,
But when you
just
tell, I
accept
mean,
it.
it helps when you tell me and describe this is relaxed. That definitely helps some. But the hard part is then when I'm trying to do that, I feel tension here and here and here and here and here.
Yeah, I made the 4th. I think I missed some things and went backwards. If I can't be sure of the actual events anymore, I can at least be true to the impressions those facts left. That's the best I can manage. There were 3 of us, and he made it. We had a history class with old Joe Hunt, Riley, affable in his 3-piece suit, a teacher whose system of control depended on maintaining sufficient but not excessive boredom. Now you'll remember that I asked you to do some preliminary reading about the reign of Henry VIII.
I was a very sort of hyper child, you know, and so I had to train myself as I got older, so people, because I could barely talk if somebody held down my hands, I would not have been able to talk a lot of the time. I basically had to train myself so I could be calm and cool and quiet in interviews.
Yeah.
so true. It feels like a mess. It's so true. It does. It just feels like it's, you know,
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
feels like it's like this.